I am going to take a big deep, no, I'm going to take a drink of water.
I'm having coffee and it's 4 PM.
Yeah, it's gone. Welcome back to the Entrepreneurial Clinician podcast. And it is with much excitement that I am speaking with one of my favorite people, Jill Johnson-Young, today. Now, Jill and I have known each other since about 2015, and it's now 2023. So somebody else out there can do that math. But Jill was one of these wonderful people that when I first met her, my reaction was, I need more of Jill in my life. And fortunately, that has happened. But Jill, why don't you tell us who you are, where you're talking to us from, and how you impact the world?
I will do that. But first, let me say, when I first met Joe, I knew I needed more Joe in my life. It was Instabond. And I'm so glad. And it happened in La Jolla, California, which is sort of a magical place. So I am a licensed clinical social worker, and I am in Southern California. I'm currently in Riverside. I practice in Riverside in a town called Murrieta, which is in wine country in SoCal. And it's currently 100 and some degrees outside Fahrenheit. And I love to impact the world in terms of doing end of life better and helping people die better deaths and helping with grief and helping clinicians do those things better and making medical personnel talk about those topics instead of run from them, and talking about dementia in all the things and all the forms and helping to recognize it. And I do it with help from my oodles, who are all rescues and seniors and all the things. And I'm a double widow. And in addition to having a private practice called Central Counseling Services, I also have JillJohnsonYoung.com, and I write books about grief and loss and dementia. And now there's a new one because of my mom's recent death. It's going to be all the stupid stuff people say, because I've always kept a list, but now there's going to be a book.
I'm going to hold you accountable to that book, because the world needs this book. So Jill, you've led a very fulfilled life, and you've done a lot of amazing things. There was a recent conversation that we were a little bit a part of on social media. Can you tell us what you thought you wanted to do when you were, say, a teenager thinking about careers, and how you ended up as a social worker? Because I laughed so loud when I heard this.
I wanted to be a veterinarian because I'm a pet person.
Yeah.
And then I arranged to spend some time with our veterinarian in the summer, and I witnessed a surgery, or part of one, because then I ended up on the floor, passed out. And then I realized I was not going to be a veterinarian because passing out's not appropriate when you're supposed to be doing surgery. And I knew I wanted then to perhaps be a florist. And then I realized that meant working holidays and weekends. And then I turned around while I was in college and said, history's not it's going to change the world in some ways, but I need to do something different. There are problems that need solving. And I left the PhD program in history I had started and went to work for our local AIDS project. And then a social worker was born.
Yeah. And you are so committed to social justice. It's like whenever anybody needs a little bit of a wake-up call, if I need a bit of a wake-up call, it's like, okay, what's Jill's opinion on this? And it doesn't mean I agree with everything that Jill says. Don't get us wrong. We're allowed to have disagreements, right?
Yes, we are.
But Jill is one of those people that helps me think about things from a different perspective, because, you know, I'm a white, middle-class, middle-aged woman who's had, you know, quite a lot of opportunities in her life. So sometimes I need help to think about other things. So for those of you listening to this podcast, I just want to be really clear with you today. We are going to be talking about death. We're going to be talking about dying. We're going to be talking about dementia. We're going to be talking about growing older. So for some of you listening, this might be uncomfortable. It might be difficult, and it might be triggering. And if that's you, you have full permission to hit stop, go make yourself a lovely warm beverage, and know that this may not be for you today. So we say that with all care and compassion. I mean, we want everybody to listen to this, but we also understand that for some people now is not the right time. Okay, so there we go. There's my disclaimer. Excellent. So Jill, I'm just going to jump straight in with one of my confusions. So as somebody who coaches health professionals in private practice, I am stunned that I have to almost beg people to work with an aging population, because I've done the math, I've done the sums, I've read the stats, and we have a niche or a niche. We have a whole population of people with income or with capacity to pay that are so underserviced.
1/3 of the population and growing, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, the stats
More than that now.
So I found stats, because there will be some people listening who want to know stats. So for those of you who don't know, approximately, because you know who counts this stuff, in the United States, you have a population of 332 million people.
Yeah, we're a little
Compared
crowded.
to Australian, we have 26. This is why Australia's population is less than population of California. Not the point. 332 million people, of which people over the age of 65 make up about 4 million.
Yes.
That's a lot of people. And then in 2019, because I found this report, which we'll put the show notes, it's called the 2020 Profile of Older Americans. That must have been a fun thing to throw around in a meeting. In 2019, 13% of people aged 65 and older reported taking 13%. Right? We're not talking small numbers here.
And more should have been.
Yeah. Well, they reported taking prescription medicine for feelings of worry, nervousness, or anxiety, and 12% reported taking prescription medicine for depression. These numbers are only going to grow because we know the population's growing.
Right. And because we're also here in the US requiring physicians to ask people about anxiety and depression now. So those numbers are going to skyrocket.
Wow. So Jill, do you have any insight into why is it that, because we've got the symposium coming up, right? I've got one spot to fill on the panel that you're running. I cannot find I want a non-mental health professional. So I'm looking for a physical therapist, an occupational therapist, a speech and language pathologist to sit on that panel and talk about working with older people. I can't find them. I've put calls out. Yeah, the gentleman from Holland that I reached out to, he wants to do it, but he needs to do it in Dutch. That ain't gonna work for me.
That's not gonna work.
So Jill, what do health professionals find hard? What is it that is so difficult about working with this population?
There are so many layers to that. Partly it's because when you're looking at someone who's older, you're looking yourself in the face in whatever number of years. And I'm turning 60 next year. My girlfriend's group and I are all going together on a vacation to celebrate turning 60. Fully 3/4 of them will not put a t-shirt on that says I'm 60.
Oh.
So talk about denial. We don't want to see older. It involves seeing our parents, if they're still alive, and what we might be facing with them. Here in the States, it involves dealing with Medicare much of the time, and Medicare is problematic and difficult to get on the panel, and their rates vary wildly, and it's just a challenge to be part of. And partly people just don't value older people. Folks just don't see the treasures that they are, which just astounds me, because my background in hospice, I got to meet the most amazing people. I met a woman who was walking her husband to work at Pearl Harbor when the bombs started falling. And she got to describe it to me. And I met 2 men who had frostbite still from being on the front lines in Korea. And we did PTSD work while they were in hospice care, because MASH came on, and here it goes again, right? There is so much richness in the older population, but the older population is slower. You have to take time to listen to them. You may be dealing with dementia, and so it may be frustrating because you have circular conversations, and that irritates a good number of people. I do a lot of education with that. And I think also it's scary. I don't want to be old, so I don't want to work with old. And yet we're all going to be there. There's no way out of this world. If you don't get to old, that means you get to die young. And so neither one is That's not a good solution.
No, it's definitely not a good solution. And we've got this, the confrontation around working with older people. I guess I hadn't really thought of that, but it brings me back to in the olden days, I was a diversional therapist, which has a whole new name now, which is basically how I was working in a nursing home here in Australia. It's an aged care facility and helping people with activities during the day. And I must admit, back when I was a baby, health professional doing this work, it was confronting. It was really confronting. And I ended up, some of the things I used to do is I play the piano a lot because they seem to really enjoy that. And I started finding children's books that had naughty themes in them. So they laughed, and then we had
bathroom jokes. It's all the thing.
Yep. So there's lots of children's books around poop that people thought were hilarious. So back in those days, if I reflect on that, I didn't feel like I was contributing at all. I just felt like I was babysitting old people. And I'm being very open about that there. And I know that's an awful, awful judgment. But if I was to come to you and say, Jill, I can't do this job anymore, it's just babysitting old people, how would you like to respond to that? Not slapping me in the face.
I don't generally slap. I generally laugh. And I would say, I think probably you're giving them the best quality of life they've had in a long time. If you're sitting and playing the piano and telling them jokes and doing things with them that are on their level, that gives them a quality of life and a meaning in life that matters more than anything.
Yeah.
It really does. I just lost my mom in June, and she had 2 forms of dementia. She was a handful at times. She truly was. But one of the things she loved was still playing the piano. She still remembered all the music. She couldn't remember words sometimes. She remembered all the music. And she loved telling stories. And if she could find somebody to sit and listen to her stories, even if they went round and round and round, it gave her such a lift. And that's what we can do with these folks. We can write their stories down and make a book out of it and give it to their family. What a gift you're now leaving for the family, in addition to helping the senior who's living in a facility.
So how do we?
It's amazing what you can do.
It is, and I remember this with my with one grandmother and my great aunt in particular. I still have this absolutely gorgeous memory of where I sat them down together, because they were sisters, and they were very close. They spoke to each other every day, and I said, "Tell me what it was like for you being a little girl." And I could not write fast enough. Could not. And now I've kept some of those stories, and I want to be able to pass them down to the people that come through after me in my family. But Jill, my question is, for most of us, that doesn't feel therapeutic.
And I don't understand that.
Okay, well, because I'm sitting there going, I'm just being nice to old people. So this is Joe just throwing out words now. How do we get around the fact that therapy, whether it's physical therapy or occupational therapy, I guess they're a little bit easier. It's like, dude, you need to be able to walk to the bathroom, or love, we need to be able to get your hand to you, put food in your mouth. But for those of us who tend to work more biopsychosocially, how does writing stories down equate to something therapeutic? Help us understand that.
It reduces depression. It gives people, if you're looking at the lifespan, at the end of life, we have a search for meaning and a need to leave behind a legacy. That's our last bit.
So we actually have another existential crisis looming.
We do. How am I going to be remembered? Who's going to remember me? What am I going to be remembered for? Right? And my mom will be remembered for her stories and for road trips. And I'm going to be remembered for dressing my oodles up in clothing and dragging them to the office and refusing to have a dirty kitchen. Like, it's who we are. And when you are living in a nursing home and all people know you as is, Mary who wears the same dress every day, instead of Mary who used to whatever Mary did, right? My little lady who saw Pearl Harbor was bedbound, but she finally told me she loved roses, and I went out and bought a rose bush. We moved her bed so she could see out the window. We put the rose bush right there. And her back hurt. I got her a new pillow. That was therapeutic.
Yeah.
And then she opened up and talked because she no longer hated me. because she was known as the woman who threw things at people.
So here we go. So we as health professionals, we tend to go and work with people, and we've got, regardless of how much we're thinking that I'm going to meet the person where they're at, I'm going to do the things that they need done, and we want to be as client-centered as we can be. We do need to remember that we've been doing this for quite a while, and we have our processes, we have our ways of assessing, we're always looking for risk management. So not understand, it's an easy thing to go, someone else can find the pillow. The pillow isn't going to be, the pillow is not going to resolve this woman's depression. But the pillow started her feeling safe to have a conversation. So this brings up a whole new conversation, Jill, which isn't on my list of questions.
Surprise.
How do we then start to develop rapport for people who have circular conversations, or on Monday are incredibly lucid and taking over the world, and Tuesday can't get out of bed? Like, how do we meet people where they're at? When they're at, we just don't know what we're turning up to.
And that's why people also get confronted when they're working with this population, which doesn't always have to be super seniors, by the way, because the fastest growing population of dementia is those under 65, right? Great Britain just had their youngest one. She was 14. So we've got dementia younger, but what we need to do is be able to meet them on each day where they are, not get locked into some silly treatment plan. And yes, I said that, folks, silly treatment plan, because the treatment plan needs to be centered around that person and giving them a sense of well-being, a sense of wholeness, and working on the generativity versus relativity pieces. Right? It's all grad school coming right back at you.
It's all, there we go, people.
All therapy.
That is the therapy.
And so if they're psychotic and they can't remember, draw with them. They can still hold a crayon. Show them pictures of funny videos on your phone. Find out from somebody what music they listen to when they do listen to music, and pull up YouTube. You will find that you are providing therapy.
Yes, we are. So we've talked about getting into nursing homes or working with people in nursing homes. Both Australia, the United Kingdom, and the USA have this incredible, and Japan. I've got, anywho, we don't have enough space. We need to help people stay at home as long as possible.
Yes, we do.
We just don't have enough space. We don't have enough care. We don't have enough nurses. We don't have enough facilities. So there's a push in all of these countries, all of these developed countries, to have people living out their lives in their home. So how do we, so going to a facility and seeing people in the facility, we kind of overcame that barrier a bit now. What sorts of things change when you have to go into a person's home?
You get the opportunity to find out who they were. I love going into the home. My hospice days, I could walk in and figure out to some degree who this person was. And if it's a couple that's still living together, or they've got who this family is. I can see that they had this many children. I can see that they're pet people or not pet people, right? I can see that she's the one who collected the dolls, or she's the one who loved the great outdoors. I instantly have a focus, a conversation to break the ice.
Wow.
Instantly. It's delightful. I love being in the home. If someone wants a cup of tea, I can put one on. Right? That's the best place in the world to be. And then I can work with them on, first of all, safety.
Yes.
Okay, you're staying home. I just walked over a rug. Would you mind if I helped you think about rolling that rug up and chucking it in the garage? Because that's a trip hazard. And I know you love little Scruffy, but Scruffy's bowl needs to not be in the footpath. Right? And I can bond with them in terms of, I'm very concerned about your safety because I want you to stay home. I don't want you to be the trip and fall, break your hip, and die in the hospital, which is really what, I mean, raise your hand if that's not a fear. Because we all know what happens when you break a hip. So it's that kind of thing. You have more opportunity to work with someone on more levels in a home than any place else. And you can work with the family on anticipatory grief. And if they're willing to work with the family and the patient and do it together, which is the most powerful work any therapist will ever do in their entire lifetime. And I am completely biased in that, but it's true.
Yeah, no, I think hopefully the people listening to this are starting to feel a little more confident and a little more like, oh, that would imagine making a difference like that, especially when we can get into the family. I love going into people's homes as a part of my work. And when they usually offer the tea or coffee first. And what I like to do is I turn that into an assessment. I go, great, can we go do that together? Because then I'm a rehabilitation counselor. So this is a part of my bailiwick. This is part of my skill set. But for me, I'm looking at their processing. I'm looking at their being able to step out tasks. And it gives me so much information about physical capability, but also cognitive capability. And meanwhile, can they do it while we're chatting?
Right.
Did they leave the gas on? That's happened to me before. Now, not that I work with many older people anymore, but I have worked with quite a few people with cognitive impairment. So Jill, I want to talk into this dementia piece because we sort out to you. We help people return to work following injury, illness, and trauma in Purple Co in my private practice. And we had a client of working age. She wasn't 60, and we were helping her return to work. She'd come to us because her employer had said, she's a problem. We don't think she wants to be at work anymore. And we started looking into some of the behaviors, and in the real, rehab, we started putting memory prompts in place. We started looking at how she was sequencing things, and the consultant and I were talking about it, and the consultant went, it's almost like her brain is Swiss cheese. And then we both went, oh,
dementia.
And that's exactly what we found. Now that totally changed her relationship with her employer. And we were able to provide all sorts of supports. Now, she wasn't able to remain in that job, but because we were able to get her accurately diagnosed, because we knew what to look out for, we were then able to help her access her superannuation and all sorts of other money, and then get that set up for her. So Jill, you've just talked about, earlier you mentioned a 14-year-old person in the United Kingdom being diagnosed with dementia. You and I both know that dementia is turning up into our private practices, our clinics, and we're not even recognizing it.
It's rarely recognized.
Yeah. So what are we doing instead of going, could this be dementia? What are we saying instead of that?
We're saying about your lady and about a man I had who was referred by his employer, and he worked in a prison, and they were days from firing him. Now, he was a state employee. He had a very significant retirement. Had he been fired, there would have been no retirement. Right. I had him for about 35 minutes. I realized we had dementia on board. I called his wife. We called his employer. We got him into a neurologist, which was a small miracle. The employer backed off for a little bit, and we medically retired him.
Yeah.
Was it a win for him to stay at work? No. Was it a win that he didn't die penniless? 100%. And his wife got survivor's benefits, which is hugely important. What we're seeing is anxiety, depression, malingering is my favorite
Yes, term. That's the one we get. Yeah.
Can we just stop that, please? People don't
Or can we go,
malinger.
why do you need, why, if you're going to put that label on somebody, can we go, instead of just going, you're malingering, bad you, can we go, why? How does it serve you to malinger?
Right.
Sorry.
And has there been a change
Yeah.
in the last 3 months, 6 months, year, 2 years? And can we ask the family if they're seeing changes in sequencing, in remembering tasks and remembering dates? Can you buy them a new cell phone and see if they can figure out how to use it? Because the definition of dementia is you can't learn new things. So if you give them new things to learn and they can't learn, we're done, right? In terms of the diagnosis, that gives us the opportunity then to help the patient and the family prepare for what's coming. Because with dementia, you've got a lot of stuff to take care of. And the problem is most people with dementia cover it. They know, they absolutely know that they can't remember, that they're not functioning. And they manage to hide it in general for about 2 to 2.5 years.
Whoa, God, we're clever people.
They are. They're clever, and they make their doctor's appointments short, because they
Yes.
know they can manage about 30 minutes. And then the doctor won't do that mini mental status exam because they've cut it to 30 minutes. And so they can get in and out. And our healthcare system has completely accommodated that because now doctors get 7 minutes. So they don't notice the cognitive difficulties, right? How are you doing? Oh, great.
Yeah.
Be perfect, right?
And I know with my grandmother, she got very good at reciting what made us smile.
Mhm.
So she would say words that she knew would bring about a smile but I knew to check for understanding and meaning, and it wasn't there. And that's part of how we started to work with this younger lady in this workplace, is like the stuff that was repetitious all the time. Like if somebody moved something out of order on her desk, she was a mess. Right. But then the next day she could come in and she would completely rearrange her desk and be fine. So people thought that she was just being obstropolous. But those are features that there's something else going on.
Right.
And it's,
with,
I can't
dementia,
diagnose.
you get different levels of ability at different days and times.
Yes. Yes. So if you haven't heard anything else today, please understand this, is that we will see more and more people living with dementia coming into our clinics, regardless of their age. It is a growing health concern.
And the most expensive one worldwide.
Yeah.
And it's in your family too, by and large, right? I know it's in my genetics, there's no way around it. And we have to be able to talk about it, because if we keep acting afraid of it, if we don't educate ourselves, if our therapists and our other clinicians, if our medical providers here in the States, 50% of doctors won't tell a dementia patient they have dementia.
Oh, good Lord. Okay.
It's not fair. You need a power of attorney and a will and a living. You need all the things.
Yeah.
Right.
And telling somebody, I'm sorry, I can just imagine that conversation. Dear sir, you have dementia. Here's a list of all the things you need. Bullet point, bullet point, bullet point, bullet point.
Right.
Whereas the client's back over there going, oh, look at the cat.
Right.
Yeah. So again, it comes back to our core strengths, the things that we do innately that we don't even realize are therapeutic, is our ability to meet a person where they're at. Mm-hmm. Ability to kind of go, hey, you checked out there for a minute. Let me help you reorient yourself back to the room.
Right. And let me also redefine client. Because if you've got a client who's developing dementia, your client has now become their family too. And they need to be brought in. You need to get all those releases signed and make them part of the process so you can help them process and help them work with this person to deal with the anxiety that comes with dementia, the depression that comes with dementia. We know they're intertwined, inextricably intertwined, but we also need to make sure that we've got things getting in order. And there are not a lot of places that really sit down and talk with you about it. Yeah. If you're high functioning, you can download all the lists, but then you got to do the list.
Yeah.
And the list is a lot.
I have enough trouble doing the list, and I know I don't have dementia. So stop giving me lists, people. Right? Stop giving me forms to fill out, for God's sake. Can I say that?
That's my life right now.
I know. Yes. Really, there's another form.
There's another form. I got to go someplace else and do another form.
Oh, and then I sent you forms, Jill. Sorry about that.
I did them.
I know you did. One of the things that I hear people react to, which I now understand, is they're covering up their discomfort about looking in the mirror, is they go, there's no money working with older people. Would you like to challenge that perception? Like, I won't get paid. Old people don't have money.
Older people do generally have money. And older people who do not have money, generally here in the States, have access to other funds and other forms of medical coverage. And the Veterans Administration has money, and all the places. And there are grants because, governments around the world are realizing we got a problem with dementia. And we really need to start tapping into those and creating programs, because right now, if we're lucky, you've got a senior center where someone can go, or adult daycare. Doesn't that sound delightful?
No.
Who here wants to think, in my senior years, I'm going to go to adult daycare? That doesn't sound fun.
Not unless we're reading books about poop. Like, I mean,
Right.
or maybe the fire brigade come and we get to watch the photo shoot of their calendar or something like that.
Right.
That kind of daycare.
That's kind of fun.
Yeah.
Right. But we need to be able to look at all the different funds accesses and figure out ways to do it. For our office, we opened a nonprofit. So if someone truly doesn't have funds, we have students we can train to work with folks and they can still get care. There are ways around it, but we do need to provide the care.
Yeah.
Because to say to someone, oh, you've got anxiety and out the door because they're not insured, seriously?
Yeah, we can do better than that. And if we continue to, and this has been my philosophy for as long as you and I have known each other, if we continue to wait for governments to make enough space available and enough money available, nobody's ever going to get looked after. This is where private practice has a genuine place. But we actually need to be courageous enough to confront our own fears and concerns about getting older or having dementia. And then we need to skill ourselves. So Jill, how do we skill ourselves with this stuff? Can I go to university to learn how to be a carer for a therapist for people with dementia?
Well, you should take a class in how to be a caregiver or a carer, which I prefer that term. And here in the States, we have the Office on Aging in every single state. I know that they have carer classes in Australia and Great Britain.
Yes.
I've seen them and I'm in touch with those folks because you need to know what these families are coping with. You can't do care for someone as a therapist if you don't understand what it means for someone to not sleep at night, every night.
And please don't just tell them to get their sleep schedule working.
It doesn't work because their brain no longer works, right? My second wife died of Lewy body dementia. And I remember one night, it was midnight. I was like, you know, it's 12 o'clock, honey. She said, was it 12 o'clock day or night? It was pitch black outside. All of us would have known. Yeah. But they don't have the cues in their brains anymore. And we need to keep that in mind. But you can take the class and then you should take some training in dementia and you should read the 36-hour day because that is the Bible and the gold standard of dementia everywhere. And you should volunteer a little bit if you can in an aging home. And you could take a class from me if you choose to.
Well, I was going to say, can we talk about your classes? Because your classes are outstanding.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
Well, I do a Dementia 101 and I talk about it. And I do a dementia and grief class because dementia is grief. And I'm also putting together a new dementia and intimacy class because that's becoming a very big deal. So we need to talk about that stuff too and not get all crazy about legal stuff. Right.
Oh, gosh. All right. I'm not going to bring that up. No, I will just leave that alone. So Jill, I've asked you to be a part of this year's Future Proofing Health Professional Symposium, and you graciously said yes before you even knew what I was going to ask you to do. But you are actually going to be facilitating a panel. So far, it's got 2 people. So if you know the third out there, listeners, get in touch with me. And your discussion is going to be all around why we find it hard to work with older people. And you're going to be speaking to people who actually choose to do this work.
Excellent. I'm so excited.
Yeah.
Because we want more people to do the work. We need them. It's tiring to be the only ones. Yeah. And to get calls over and over again, but I can't find anyone. I know you can't. I know one therapist on the West Coast who specializes in dementia, and she's in Seattle.
Wow.
Yeah.
So Jill, the symposium is where we can learn more about you. We'll have links to Jill's books and her website and her training in the show notes, because if you've heard anything here today, and for me, future-proofing us as health professionals is also making sure that we know the types of clients that are going to be coming in our doors, the types of niches or people who are going to need services, so that we've always got to. So for me, it's like a no-brainer. Like, why aren't more of us getting on this bandwagon? Why aren't more of us going, ooh, big part of the population needs help over here that aren't getting serviced. How can I contribute to that? And it might be just being a referral source. It might be, you don't have to become the Jill Johnson Young of all things dementia. It's just being aware and building those resources and building your own knowledge, which I think is really important. So I'm a bit passionate about this, but I am a bit confronted because I'm like, there's room in my private practice for us to be doing some work here. So thank you, Jill.
There's lots of room. Yeah.
Okay, so the most important question of the day. When we get to hang out together again,
When?
when, and we get to go have coffee together, what
Yes.
coffee are you ordering?
I'm a latte girl.
Oh, thank God.
And
Shoot, I know how to
not
order a
that one
latte.
with the green thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
not that green box place.
No. Oh,
That
hang
stuff's
on.
bitter.
Have we met? I don't go to the green place.
I know you don't, and I don't either. It tastes like burnt something.
The
or
only
other.
place I go to the green place is at Honolulu Airport. Oh, and now this sounds pretentious because I get off that plane and I'm like, give me Gaffy now.
You know, the best latte I've ever had was at Schiphol Airport in Amsterdam.
Oh,
They had walking awesome latte. I was so excited.
good to know. All right. Triple
Yeah.
coffee in Amsterdam, Jill. Thank you
Especially
so
at
very
4 in the
much.
morning.
Okay, that just went bad fast. Thank you so much, Jill, for being on this episode today. And if you've got any questions for Jill, you can find her in the Future Proofing Health Professionals Facebook group. It's a free group. I know, free. You are welcome to come join us. If you've got a question for Jill, you just write it in there, tag her in it, and she will be able to answer that for you because Jill loves chatting, in case you haven't noticed right now. So thank you so much, Jill. Thank you, everybody who has listened today. Go forth and be your awesome self. Hey, Joe Muirhead here again. Thank you for watching this episode of The Entrepreneurial Clinician. It has been great to share guests, new information and new ways of thinking with you. I trust that this episode today has inspired you and has helped you to reconnect to your sense of purpose as a health professional and a clinician. Before we move on, just want to remind you that these sessions, these episodes, are provided for educational purposes only. Nothing in these episodes is designed to be treatment specific or a specific recommendation about your health, your wellness, or your finances for your situation specifically. If you need assistance in any of these areas, please reach out to an appropriate professional for you to be able to access the help that you need. If you have enjoyed these episodes and would like to see more, please subscribe to the YouTube channel and make sure you leave me a comment below. And I look forward to bringing you more great, inspiring stories where I get to learn just as much as you do. Until next time, go be your awesome self.